emergency.
Welcome back to That Wee Woo Show, a podcast where we watch and discuss episodes of the ABC show 911. I'm Ellen.
I'm Alice.
And I'm Bex.
Thanks for everyone who's listened to our episodes so far and shared our social media posts, and an extra big thank you to everyone who's actually left star ratings on our Spotify episodes. That is so exciting. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. If you have been listening on Spotify or Apple Music, if you could, leave us a star rating as well, that's the best way for us to get our podcast out there. But in this particular episode, we're going to discuss season 1, episode 4, which is titled Worst Day Ever, which originally aired on January the 24th, 2018.
So long ago now.
Yes.
Last week on 911, Athena's daughter survives her overdose and reveals that her struggles are from school, not her home life. The 118 rescue a truck full of immigrants while Abby agonises whether she should put her declining mother in a home, and Supernatural fans everywhere are triggered by Chimney surviving a rebar through the skull.
God, yes we were.
In this week's episode, in the aftermath of a deadly plane crash, Bobby and his team race to help the survivors while Athena deals with the panic and chaos at the airport. Bobby confronts his past demons, Athena is out for revenge against a group of teen bullies, and Abby delivers an important message from a 911 caller. Before we jump into a discussion of the episode, a few content warnings. This episode is going to discuss a plane crash that results in mass casualties. There is a threat of drowning and images of drowning victims. There is intimidation and assault by police officers, and an alcoholic character relapses.
Yeah, this is quite a full-on episode, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very heavy one.
It is, yeah. A lot goes on. Shall we just jump straight in? Why not?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, yeah, the episode starts on a plane coming in for landing into LAX. The attendant asks everyone to put their tray tables up, starts walking through the cabin, collecting rubbish, helping a child with their bag. Some man addresses her as babe, and she says he can't have another drink because they're landing, and don't call me babe.
She moves further down the aisle and we meet Dante, who apologizes on behalf of all men for the previous man's behavior towards the attendant, cabin manager. I'm not entirely sure what her role is in here. And she accepts his apology and moves on. And then we cut to a couple a few rows ahead who have decided that while the cabin manager is distracted, it's the perfect time to sneak off to the in-flight toilets and join the Mile High Club.
Yeah, even though they're not a mile high anymore.
Yeah, and they would not fit in that bathroom together. Because, if you've used a bathroom on a plane, they are, the smallest thing. And that guy's, 6'10".
I mean, if she stands on the toilet or, it's possible.
I
think
They purposely make them tiny, don't they? So that people can't do that
Yeah, I definitely
anymore.
think that they make them as small as possible so that people don't do it. But, yeah.
Suspension of disbelief, people.
And also, just as you're about to come into land, that can't be a fun time to do that anyway.
That's 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes is when they call for we're coming in for landing. So, I mean...
Yeah.
This guy obviously does not think much of his performance if he thinks that they can get in and get done and get back to their seats in 20 minutes.
Yeah, before the plane lands. Anyway, they disappear up the back of the plane, and a kid who is sitting with his mum asks the attendant lady to pick a card, any card, and she is really sweet with him and says she didn't know we had a magician on board, and picks a card. And then all of a sudden there's a loud noise and the plane drops suddenly and people go flying everywhere. This is the biggest nightmare of mine because I hate flying and I hate turbulence and I hate landing.
Yeah.
And
The landing's definitely the worst part.
Yes.
So the woman who plays the mum also plays Ted's sister in How I Met Your Mother. And that's just what I referred to her as the entire, like the entire notes I've got. It's just Ted's sister. I have no idea what her real name is.
Yeah,
So,
she has a name.
yeah.
I wrote a name down later. Where did it?
The character's name is Tammy. I don't know
Tammy,
what
yeah, that's
the
right,
actress's name is. But funny you say that, Alice, because there is another character we're going to meet later in the episode who I refer to by a previous role of his. So,
Excellent, good. We're going well. So Ted's sister lifts up the window shade and the plane's on fire.
Which, if they're coming into landing, that window should already have been open.
Yeah, I thought
that's
that too, yeah.
One of the
Exactly.
instructions.
Yeah, tray tables up, window shades open, like
Maybe they
this
just
show,
didn't get
I
to
tell
it.
you what.
Do you know why they make you open your windshields, your windscreens, or window shades, or whatever we want to call them?
Is
Why?
it so that you can see if the wing's on fire?
Actually, yes.
Oh,
It's because the pilots cannot see what is happening behind them. They can only see in front of them, so they require the windows to be open so cabin crew and passengers can report back on what is happening to the rest of the plane.
Oh my god, that's actually terrifying.
Right?
I know that the reason that you can't like play with laptops and that sort of stuff during takeoff is so that if something goes wrong, you're actually paying attention.
okay.
Because if everyone's sitting there with headphones on, they won't notice.
Yeah, and also if you've got a laptop on your lap, that's a sort of impediment to you getting up and leaving. So,
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yes. Tammy opens the windows. The wing is on fire. The pilots have reported that the control column, which steers the plane, is not responding. The hydraulics, which is the system used to manage brakes, flaps, flight controls, landing gear, has been knocked out. So they are not going to be able to land this plane. Oxygen masks deploy from the ceiling, and the pilots call in a mayday declaring an emergency.
And then we go to the title card.
And then we cut from this extremely terrifying scene to the firehouse where Hannah's cooking a stir fry.
Which also might be a terrifying scene. I'm not sure how good Hen's cooking is.
I mean, it looked pretty good, but can we just...
It did actually look pretty good.
It's Hen that's cooking. Hen and Buck
Yeah.
are in the kitchen, and Bobby is sitting on the other side of the little loft area kitchen that they've got in the firehouse. I mean,
maybe he doesn't cook every meal for them. We've only had a few episodes, but I do get the idea that he does like to cook for them.
Yeah, he's definitely the cooker.
Alice, do you want to bring up the food theory now?
Yeah, so a friend of mine mentioned this week that there's apparently a food theory on 911 where if the food is burnt or like they're having takeout or like someone besides Bobby is cooking, it means that like something is wrong with like the 118 or like someone in the 118. And that definitely holds true with this episode. So it's interesting, and I'll definitely be tracking it, I think.
Interesting, yeah. Well, Buck steals some of the veggies out of the pan, and said, if you want some, just ask. And he goes, I already ate. It's like, get out of it. But he still owes her $20 for the cookie bouquet she had delivered to Chimney, who is currently still in the hospital. He's not in this episode at all, but his presence is still
mention, though.
felt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Buck does then look over to where Bobby is sitting and says he's doing it again. He's sitting there staring into his little book.
Hen tells him not to prod because she made that mistake 3 months into working there. And the swagger that Buck does when he walks over to Bobby. Like, full-on swaggers over.
Sibling energy between these two. And as he swaggers over, Hen mentions, when he pops you in that pretty face, make sure it's on the side that's already got a mark. So, once again, we're bringing up Oliver's birthmark.
Yes.
And then the arrogance, he swaggers over and says, so, Bobby, I gotta ask, what's the deal with that book? There's no sugarcoating it, no gently sliding in, it's just bam. What is up with the book?
Yep, what's the deal?
And Bobby just gets up and says, it's none of your business, and walks away. And Buck doesn't get the message. He can't read the room, so he follows Bobby, and we get a little bit of exposition for the viewers who maybe have just joined the show or maybe who weren't paying attention in the previous episodes. And he tells us what the book is. It's a list of people that Bobby has saved. There are 46 names in it, but there is a space for 48. Why is there a space for 48?
148, yeah.
Oh, sorry, 148. There's space for 148. Why that number? And I know that we need that exposition in order to keep the audience up to date, but I was watching that going, Buck, how do you know this? If Bobby is as secretive about his book as you say he is, and Hen says he is, how do you know what's in it? And Bobby has the same question. How do you know all of this? And Buck confesses, I might have peeked into the book once or twice.
Yeah, and then Bobby just grabs him and like slams him against the wall. Don't ever do that again, he says.
And Buck's saved by the bell.
Yeah, and they're on their way to the plane
Hen's
crash.
just watching all this with a told you so kind of look on her face. She's not at all concerned that Bobby just assaulted Buck. It was almost like he had it coming. Told you not to do it, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, it's saved by the bell. There is a call for all hands listing off. They want the rescue ambulances. They want the ladder trucks. They're being called down to the beach where there is an emergency.
Yeah, so we get the 911 call. It's actually a woman on the plane. And she says something's happened to the engine. Everything's flying around. And then I don't know if it's Abby talking to her or the 911 operator, is talking to her.
It was a male 911 operator at that time.
Yeah. I couldn't remember. And then the line just goes dead. Well, she says they're too close to those buildings and the line goes dead. So the 118 roll up to the scene. They're down on, like, I was trying to work out where this water was that they were in to start with, because there's no, like, it didn't look like the ocean because there weren't any waves. But then I remembered that a lot of the beaches along LA there don't have waves much of the time. Like, sometimes they do, but in this case
they're not good surf beaches.
Yeah, this is they say the name of the beach later, Dockweiler Beach, which is like right next to LAX. So they've just overshot the airport, ditched into the water off the beach. There's not a lot of waves, just gentle kind of lapping on the sand. So they get out a bunch of boats and start heading over to where the wreckage. There's like debris on fire in the water all over the place. As Buck's helping with the boat going out into the water, there's just this dead person still in their seat, like washed up on the beach.
Yeah, it's a huge wreckage.
The episode does something really interesting where we are jumping around not only between characters but time-wise. So we go from the 118 on the beach to 8 hours before the crash, where Athena is in her patrol car sitting outside a house watching people going inside.
Yeah, so she's staking out the house of the girl that has been bullying May, her daughter, and she's on the phone with Michael, who's still her husband, even though they're kind of separated at this point, very separated at this point. The girl's throwing a house party at 4 p.m. on a school day in like massive house, no parental supervision. Michael asks what she thinks she's doing, and she tries to sort of blow it off and say she's doing her job. But she also says, like, you'd love to see the look on this girl's face when I walk in after what she's put her daughter through.
But she says, tell me you don't want to see the look on this bitch's face when I stroll in.
Yeah.
And this bitch is like 16 years old, not even 16.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't...
She's so mad, like, really cross right now.
She is... yeah.
She's got the red rage coming down, Like, she's not thinking straight at all. Yeah, Michael tries to talk her out of it a little bit, but she's determined. She goes inside. And the girls are having a party. They're like taking marijuana or something. I'm not sure what the drugs are they're doing. But the girls start making nasty comments about one of the other girls.
There are definitely drugs going on.
And this main girl says, like, I haven't slapped anyone all day and I am so freaking high. It's like, whoa, okay.
This is Layla, the queen bee, the one who instigated a lot of the bullying against May.
Yeah.
One of Layla's friends turned around and says 5-0, really panicked, and Layla grabs her purse and shoves something in it as we pan around to see Athena strolling across the backyard in full uniform. Layla approaches Athena and asks, can I help you, officer? Athena says that the neighbours called in a complaint. Layla asks if the music was too loud. And here again, Athena's common sense kind of gets lost under her maternal rage because she says, no, the neighbours called objecting to a smell. And when Layla says, well, nobody here is smoking marijuana, Athena says, no, I didn't say marijuana. They said some skanky teenage hoe was living up here, bringing a real stank to the neighbourhood, bringing down the property values, and I'm going to guess that would be you.
All her friends are like, ooh.
Again, this is a
This girl is like
woman
15.
in a police uniform. Like, she's saying this in her full uniform to a teenager.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
She is so lucky
It's a
that
really
at this
bad look.
point in the series, LAPD were not required to wear body cam because
Right.
she would be in a world of trouble if that footage ever made it out. I'm actually surprised that nobody at this party has their phones out at this stage recording Athena.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Well, eventually it comes out that she is May's mum, and because May's friend Georgina is there too, and so and Athena says to Layla, my baby's in the hospital because of you, and Layla says, good, she's a punk ass slut. And it just all goes down.
Layla is desperately trying to save face amongst her friends, but she doesn't realise that you can't pull that kind of attitude with a police officer, and the police officer of the mother whose daughter is in the hospital after a suicide attempt.
Yep.
So Athena immediately grabs hold of Layla, spins her around, cuffs her, puts her under arrest. At which point I just kind of threw hands up and went, no, you can't do that. You cannot do that.
Yeah, well, even if she saw what she was putting in her bag or whatever, it's like, you weren't supposed to be here in the first place. Like, this is way out of line. But she's real mad.
Way out of line.
She's in the revenge mindset at the moment, so...
Layla tries to pull, though, when my father hears about this, he's an attorney. And Athena goes, yeah, he's a tax attorney. Which, he's still a lawyer, Athena. Just because he chooses to practice tax law does not mean he does not know the law. And even if he is not up on his criminal law, either his firm, if it's a boutique firm that covers all different forms of legal advice, there will be a criminal lawyer in the firm, or he will know somebody who is a criminal lawyer. Just don't antagonize her. In case you can't tell, Athena made me so mad in this episode.
So mad.
From the beginning, I've always been team Athena, but she crossed so many lines in this episode that, I've got her back, but I'm giving her serious side-eye as I've got her back.
Yeah, this episode is not good for Athena.
No.
I mean, in a certain way, you can understand where she's coming from. Like, she's, so she's in mama bear mode, but she shouldn't be using her privileges to do this to an underage child.
She shouldn't be using her badge.
Yeah. Well,
Exactly.
Anyway, Georgina, as they're leaving, tries to ask Athena to tell May that she's sorry, and Athena just says, tell her yourself.
Which, Georgina, honey, do not be putting a target on your back right now.
Yeah.
I would be trying to get out of there as fast as possible, not bringing attention to myself. Because who knows if Athena's going to snap and arrest you as well. But thankfully she doesn't. She just arrests Layla and takes her down to the precinct. And we cut to later that night. Athena is at her desk filling out paperwork. When Layla's parents burst into precinct looking for her daughter. And this is where we get my notes, because the actor that plays Mr. Creedy, Layla's father, is Clarence Weedman from Veronica Mars. So I'm just going to refer to him as Clarence Weedman for the next couple of minutes.
Okay.
Yes, beautiful. Perfect.
You want to describe the next bit then, since you've got the the actor down?
The other thing I do want to point out is we get a wide shot of the bullpen that Athena is working out of. And there is a big-ass widescreen TV on the back wall of the bullpen showing footage from the interview room where there is a lone figure sitting at a table, which I think we're meant to think is Layla. So they've got Layla alone in an interrogation room, and they're broadcasting the footage on the big screen of the bullpen.
Yeah, I thought that was strange.
What is up with that?
I don't think that's a normal procedure, really.
Yeah,
So I don't think that's normal procedure anyway. So anyway, Clarence Weedman and his wife burst in looking for Layla. Layla's mum said that she found out what happened to Layla through her friends. So I don't know, did LAPD not call Layla's guardians when they took her into custody?
Yeah,
how does that work?
Strange.
They have a minor in their custody. They surely should have been calling her parents. And we find out that Layla has been charged with possession of a controlled substance.
Yeah.
Clarence Weedman demands that Layla be released, and when Athena goes back and sits down at her desk, he leans over and tries the intimidation tactics of that he knows a top trial attorney. He plays golf with him, and that the attorney is going to have a field day with this case. So, see, even if he can't practice law, he knows a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting in this scene that Layla's mother is reacting very emotionally. That's her baby that Athena has got, whereas Clarence Weedman is very... I think he's still angry, but he's using a much more logic, more rational sense to try and argue his way out of this, or at least intimidate his way out of this.
Yeah.
But Athena seems to respond more to Layla's mother's words than she does her father's.
Yeah, and she says that if she'd had a problem, then she should have come to them. But then Athena says, like other people have done, like other parents have complained, and you've done absolutely nothing. And they're the ones who failed because their daughter is a nightmare. It's like, okay, burn. I mean, that may be true, but, you still got to have a smidge of professionalism, perhaps.
Just
a little bit.
I don't know.
Thankfully, Athena is safe by the bell, because before Clarence Weedman can respond, there is an announcement over the intercom, all units to report to LAX for an emergency perimeter. There's a plane down on the beach. And we cut to LAX.
Yeah, there's a lot of people there. She's met with an airport security guard who tells her what's happened, but there's a big crowd of people there trying to find out what's happened to their loved ones who were on the flight. And there's a bunch of planes that are, have landed but don't have a gate, or, basically everything's at a standstill at the airport. And LAX is a pretty big airport. It's like a major hub for a lot of planes. So I can imagine that, having the whole thing come to a halt is a big nightmare for everybody. So a few people come up to her and say, can you tell us what's happening? We haven't heard anything. And, she just tries to put them minds at ease, like, we're doing all we can. We'll let you know.
One woman comes up and says she's looking for a husband, Dale Marks, and that he's usually wearing his cap, and, if you find him, let me know. And, yeah, they're just saying how sad it is, and as soon as there'll be updates, they'll be passed on. Then a call comes over about a disruptive passenger on a plane that hasn't been allowed to deboard. So Athena says she'll go handle it.
Yeah, she's going to handle it herself, because she assumes it's some privileged jackass who's complaining because he didn't get an extra bag of nuts. And I think she's still a little bit pent up from the confrontation with the Creedies and needs a target to unleash on.
Yeah, just a little bit.
a little bit, which is kind of a theme for Athena. She takes her personal problems to work and then unleashes them on the unsuspecting public.
Yeah.
Just
not ideal.
Really, it's not a great trait for a police officer, to be honest. Oh dear.
No, not at all.
Back at the crash site, there's heaps of debris everywhere in the water, and Buck notices that the water is on fire, but they say that it's jet fuel burning. So in general, I like this scene because the camera does a lot of work like at the surface of the water, like bobbing around in and out of the water, and chaotically kind of panning around. So it gives you that kind of sense of being a victim, like a passenger trying to get out of the water or panicking about. It gives a much more urgent feeling to it.
Definitely puts us as the viewers in that scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
really
like,
well constructed.
I just want to mention Buck, who, is usually, rushing into things head first. He looks terrified.
He does, yeah. Yeah.
Like, he actually looks like, a 26-year-old.
He is completely overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I think if that kind of goes to his character, because he's used to going in to save people, but from the moment that they showed up on the beach, he is surrounded by people he is not going to be able to save.
Yeah.
He's just lost. He just does not know what to do when he can't help people.
Yeah. Bobby says they've only got about 4 minutes as well.
Yeah. How does he, like, I don't know how you estimate how long it's going to take a plane to sink in the water, but okay, 4 minutes is a good enough as any.
He's staring at the water and he's looking at the current and the waves that are washing in, and calculates that with every wave it's going to pull the plane down this much, therefore in 4 of these waves, and the waves are coming this regularly. Yeah, I don't know how he did it either.
He's a very logical person,
but,
sure.
I mean, considering he's from Minnesota, isn't Minnesota pretty landlocked? And how does he know so much about water currents and beaches and things like that? But we'll let it go.
He's just that good.
No, we're not supposed to ask. It's fine.
We need the time crunch. We've got to get everybody off this plane in 4 minutes.
Yep. Yeah.
So they get to the plane. Hen releases the evacuation slide, which turns into a raft and encourages everybody that is in the water or on the plane to get onto the raft.
They rescue a man who's sort of stuck in his seatbelt, which is actually cutting into his stomach. So they rip it out, and he's just screaming while they help him out of the seat and to the rescue boat. And Bobby tells Buck to keep going to look for more people. And they find the little boy and his mum, Tammy. No, the little boy's name is...
Jake.
Jake, yeah, that's right.
Jake.
And he's still holding on to his Jack of Spades cards, telling his mummy they need to go. But her legs are pinned under the seat in front, and so she can't move. And then she spends this quite long period of time, considering they only have 4 minutes to get out of the plane, convincing him that he's brave and he can do this for her, and she's going to see him again. It's going to be all right. It's like, just get the fuck out of there.
I will give kudos to this actress. She does a really good job of doing that thing that parents do, where you are absolutely terrified out of your mind, but you have to put on a brave face for your kid.
Yeah,
She's trying to be calm. She's trying to just... this one tugged at the heartstrings. But she takes up that precious time, and it works because Jake allows Buck to carry him out of the plane and put him into one of the rescue boats. But unfortunately, as soon as that happens, the plane sinks a little bit further under the water.
As Buck's taking him to the boat, he's talking to him the whole time, saying, "Okay, big man, I got you, and it's gonna be all right. We're getting out of here." Like, oh, he's so good with kids.
Because he is a kid.
I know this
Buck
from
is awesome
future
with kids.
spoilers that I have seen, but also right from the beginning, he's great with kids. But Bobby stays with Tammy, and he assures her that he's going to get her out of there, even though the plane starts sinking some more, and they all have a bit of a panic.
So, Hen and Buck go to check the back of the plane. Hen finds the couple that is still stuck in the toilet.
Yeah.
They're trapped by a cart, like a cart's like wedged against the door, and they can't move it. So Buck actually does this genius thing where he ties a rope to the cart and then ties the other end to a boat and gets the boat to pull the cart free.
Yes, nearly wipes himself out in the
Genius
process.
until it comes flying down the aisle and nearly takes his head off. Yeah.
Yeah, like almost kills like 5 people as he does it, but like it's still, they get the couple out. So props to Buck, okay?
So Anne tries to get Buck to leave, and Bobby orders everyone to get out of there. And Buck's like, "Come on, Bobby, that means you too." And he's like, "No, I'm going to stay and rescue this person." And then Tammy's sort of saying to him, "Do you have kids?" And Bobby says yes. And she tries to convince him to leave. And then Buck shows up and Bobby's like, "I told you to leave." And Buck says, "But I'm a terrible listener." So Buck hands him a rope and says, "Tie this to the seat." He's going to try his, pulling technique again. And then he gets washed out of the aircraft, or I think another wave comes through and like the plane's sinking a bit more and he gets washed out of there. But Bobby stays there with Tammy, and Buck sort of watches from the outside as the plane sinks beneath the surface and thinks they've lost them. But yeah, at the last moment he breaks Tammy loose and they get pulled up by a helicopter into the air. Much to everyone's relief.
Not a moment too soon,
saved.
because as Bobby is hanging from the arms of the Coast Guard rescue helicopter, Tammy clutched to his hands, he looks up and sees the top of the dorsal fin of the plane just sink under the surface.
Yeah.
If he hadn't got her out at that moment, they would have been gone completely.
Yeah.
And whatever music is playing at the time has some lyrics that say something like, "We'll all arrive in heaven alive." I was like listening to it going,
It's called...
wow, there goes that music again.
It's called Heaven Faced by The National. So
They get pulled up to heaven and they're alive.
So then we do another time jump to 3 minutes before the crash. And we're in the dispatch centre with Abby, who takes a call from Dale Marks.
I have so many issues with this scene.
Do you? Oh.
Why doesn't he just call his wife's voicemail?
Honestly.
I mean,
Yeah,
I know
like-
logically, like for the purposes of the show, we needed to get Connie on set and on screen, so it makes sense to have him call 911 so we can have Abby take the call. But logically, why wouldn't he just call her voicemail?
Yeah, that would make a lot more sense. Like, I wouldn't
Anyway,
have thought to
I've
call
got to call
911.
911. Yeah, I've got to call 911 and tell them that the plane's going down. But while I'm doing so, I guess I'll tell my wife that, like, her and her unborn baby are kind of cool.
And Abby is more interested in, wait, you're on a plane that's going down. And he's like, no, don't worry about that. Just listen to what I have to say. And she just sits there and listens as he talks to his wife through her. And he is quite certain that he is not going to survive this crash. And he tells his wife that he is going to be watching over her and their daughter, who he's never going to meet, from above. And there's the look on Abby's face as she's listening to this. She's absolutely devastated because she knows that there's nothing she can do.
Yeah.
And in the background, you can hear the screaming of the passengers. You can hear the plane starting to collapse. And then mid-sentence, the call cuts off.
Yeah.
And Abby can't get him back.
Yeah.
Then Abby just has to watch the news about the plane crash.
And the other guys there say that the pilots knew what they were doing, that they saved lives by putting it into the water. So obviously they did have a little control over what they were doing.
Abby says it's just sad.
So everyone gets back onto the beach and Jake is reunited with Tammy. And it's like one of those times in Supernatural where everyone lives and you're like, wow, no one died, everyone's living. And I'm like, no, a bunch of people died. Like, it's just these people who survived and you're happy about it. No, they thank Bobby for his efforts. But Bobby just looks really lost as they're taken away. And Hen tells Bobby that that's got to make you feel pretty good, that there's one family who's got a lot to be grateful for. And Bobby just goes, yep, and walks off. It's like, oh no.
And he doesn't just walk off, he walks completely away from everything. We get an overhead shot of him leaving the... there is a word for what they've set up, but the...
like the triage zone?
The crisis center or the triage zone or something. He's just out of there.
Yeah.
Not even walking back to the trucks, he's just walking.
Yeah.
There's something seriously wrong with Bobby.
Yeah.
But then we cut back to Buck.
Yeah, the Mile High Club couple thank him and tell him that they owe him their lives and that they're getting married.
Which
He's just like, you seem like a nice couple. That's great.
Yeah, he's like, okay.
You were trapped in the toilet together, but okay, whatever.
But in his pocket, his phone starts ringing, and I think that Buck owes the Apple Corporation quite a bit of money if he got submerged in the Pacific Ocean and his phone is still working.
Yeah.
To be fair, my iPhone is waterproof.
Yeah, they're pretty waterproof.
That waterproof? Like you can go swimming in it and it'll still work?
Yeah.
I mean, I have it in the shower a lot, so...
You can get, like, I've dropped mine in a puddle and it's been actually fully submerged and it still works. But you can't charge them. Like, I don't have an Apple phone. Mine's just like an Android thing. But you can't charge until the charging port is completely dried out. So even if, like, your phone is still working, you've only got until your battery runs out, basically, because it takes forever for it to dry.
Apparently, Buck's battery life is pretty good then.
Yeah.
So his phone is ringing and it is Abby.
Abby, who knows he's at work again.
Because I think when she was watching the news, the camera panned over the reporter's shoulder and focused on a group of fire rescue doing their thing in the triage center. And I was watching it on my computer at that point, so I couldn't see. I think we could see that it was either she saw Buck or she recognized that it was the 118 there. So she knows.
I think you can see Buck. Yeah, I think you can see Buck on the beach. So like she knows that he's out of the water at this point.
Yes,
but still, stop calling him at work, Abby. Like, dude's busy.
Isn't he like the fairground Spider-Man or something? He's got to be all over the news, surely.
Yeah.
But this time she's not calling for personal reasons. She kind of has semi-professional reasons to call him. She would like him to search for Dale Marks because Abby needs to know if he survived the crash.
Yeah.
So he says he'll see what he can find out because he's just a stand-up guy and we love Buck.
And then we do another jump. We are now at 42 minutes after the crash. We are back at LAX and Athena is on her way to Flight 207 to deal with the out-of-control passenger. And oh boy, I have issues with this scene as well.
Yeah, I do. Well.
Here we go.
I felt like this entire scene and the way it played out was extremely unlikely.
Yeah.
Not just Athena's reaction aside, a guy duct taping a passenger to his seat, just the whole thing. I was just like, what? I couldn't suspend my disbelief for this one.
So
I was
the setup for this is Athena gets on the plane and finds that there has been a passenger duct taped to his seat, including duct tape across his mouth.
Yeah, across his mouth.
And the airport
He's
police...
also got a cut on his head as well.
Yeah, and the rest of the passengers just stood around.
But apparently he assaulted an officer.
Yeah, the airport police officer says that the man assaulted him, and you can see as he says that, he's trying to get Athena on his side, police officer to police officer, I had to do whatever I had to do to protect myself, Unfortunately, this being the day and age of cell phones with cameras, somebody recorded the altercation, and it's quite clear that the man was causing a disturbance, yes, because he was very agitated. He was flying home, I guess. He has his father in a coffin in the cargo hold. He's bringing it home to his mother, who is calling him on the phone, trying to find out where he is, because they've been sitting on the tarmac for a while and they're not allowed off the plane. And when the security officer tells him to sit down or else, he kind of gives a little bit of attitude, like, well, what else? What are you going to do? And then there is a scuffle, and the
he just throws
security
down.
officer has thrown this guy down onto the ground. And that's when the recording stops. And Athena is not impressed.
Not at all. I feel like they're trying to redeem Athena here. They're just like, oh yeah, we had her fuck up majorly in the start of the episode. Let's do some good PR for Athena.
So she asks airport security, why can't these people deplane? And the police officer says that he was told that no one should exit the unbound aircraft until they determined that it wasn't terrorism that caused Flight 46 to crash, which apparently is news to everybody on the plane because we hear gasps of shock. And when Athena asks, where did you get those orders, he says, the CEO of the airline. Which, I mean, can you imagine Alan Joyce calling and giving those kind of orders if this was happening on a Qantas flight? I know that he's no longer the CEO, but that was the first name that came to my brain.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And Athena points out that he works for the LA Airport Police, which I looked up, and they are a department of the City of Los Angeles government. There is a specific department that handles security and governance of the two airports in LAX, being LAX and Van Nuys. So he is a public servant, just like Athena. He is a police officer, but specific to the airport. So, I mean, she's kind of... I will give her this. He should not be taking orders from private citizens. There are protocols and things that he would have been trained on how to handle situations where there is potential terrorism, and they need to keep everybody safe. But those orders come from the department. They don't come from the CEO of whatever particular airline that he is, that plane comes from.
Yeah, that he currently is standing on.
He's the only security person on the plane. Like, I don't remember seeing anybody else. And if they were, all the passengers just stood around and watched it happen. Like, I don't know, it just seems very, extra. I don't know how to describe it. It just seems over the top to me.
It does seem over the top, especially like the gentleman who was duct taped to his seat, causing a disturbance, kept saying that they've been there for 8 hours, which does not track, because we saw from the...
this is 42 minutes after the crash.
It's 42 minutes after the crash.
I was
only
thinking
been
that
sitting
too.
on the tarmac for, like, at best, an hour.
Yeah.
If they've been there for 8 hours, then there was a much bigger problem than a plane crash.
I'm assuming that this guy is complaining that he got on the plane 8 hours ago from wherever he was flying from. So he's flown for 8 hours.
Okay, that
They've
makes
landed,
more sense.
or like flown for 7 hours.
Yeah, that was what that's what I worked out. But it's like...
But that's not the issue. The issue is you've been on the tarmac for 42 minutes. Let's call it an hour to be generous. Like, the protocols for civil aviation dealing with tarmac delays don't kick in for 2 hours. This guy...
I wonder if they just didn't tell the passengers at all why they weren't allowed to deboard. If they just didn't tell them that there was a plane crash. But also, they had their phones to record, so, like, surely they would have looked at the news by now and been like, holy shit, there's a plane crash.
Yeah, people would have been calling them to see if they were okay.
The plot holes in this...
I don't know.
Yeah, because, like, the guy's phone is ringing. His mother is calling him. So sure. The holes in this scene are just big enough to crash an airplane through. It drove me nuts.
We do get a nice rant from Athena about how shit capitalism is, and, like, yes, I do agree.
Absolutely. And she does get a cheer from the assembled passengers for her speech, especially after she tells them that they're all under arrest, and therefore they're under her control now, and they can leave the plane.
Yeah.
So,
Which, again, Athena, there are protocols. She's like, there is no good reason why these passengers have to stay on this plane. How do you know there is no good reason? You do not know that the crash of Flight 46 was not terrorism related. There could be something wrong with that plane, and they need those passengers to stay on the plane to ensure the safety of everybody in the airport.
Yeah,
You
she did
don't
make a
know
pretty
that.
big
Plus,
call
what are they
there.
going to do when they get off the plane?
But you're just going to take
Yeah.
everybody off the
Their
plane.
baggage is
I
still
just-
on the plane, so there's just going to be more people in the airport being mad.
I just like I get that it's a feel good scene because, you know, airline CEOs bad and airplanes and flying is bad, and, you know, here is Athena sticking it to the man and standing up for the small person, but oh my god, nobody put an ounce of rational logical thought into writing this scene.
Yes.
Just like the entire series of Glee. What? Who said that?
It's not supposed to make sense. It's just some kids singing songs. Anyway, so after everyone's left the plane and Athena has left the airport, she's like, I'm out of here. This is it.
And what did she do with all those people that she'd just taken into her custody?
They just
Got rid
went
of them.
home. That was just to get them off the plane. Like, I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to
they
say
went home
to...
without their bags.
Well, I assume you can't say to people you are under arrest without actually doing some paperwork about it. Like, you know...
You would think, right?
Well, she didn't read anybody their rights. Nobody was Mirandaized at any point, including Layla, may I add. She did not Mirandaize that girl.
Okay, let's go.
Gonna cough.
Oh my god.
So we go back to the beach.
So we're back to the beach. And Buck...
I need to go to the
Yes.
beach after this scene.
Buck's asking around about Dale Marks. He says, you know, like, a lot of people got out, but, like, in one piece. And it's like, okay, Buck, you're a bit morbid now. But, like, he's trying to make conversation. It's very morbid conversation here.
Yeah.
But, yeah, flirting with, like, the person who has the list of the survivors.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah, I think I saw that name. And then scrolls down and goes, oh, I think it was on the other list.
Yeah.
And Buck looks over at the other tent, which is the temporary morgue.
He calls Abby to tell her about it, and she's really upset.
And then we have a scene with... We start with Bobby. He's walked away from the scene. He is down on the beach, standing in the shallows, just watching the water come in and out. And then we get a voiceover of this little child's voice going, "Daddy, what's wrong?" And we cut to Bobby back in his apartment. And Bobby says that he had a tough day. And the camera is really tight in on Bobby, so we can just see his face, but we can hear clinking sounds. It sounds like he's cooking. Mm-hmm. We get the child's voiceover asking if it was a tough day because of the plane crash. And the camera cuts so that we, the audience, the viewers, are kind of where the child would be. And we see Bobby look at us. And he's having a conversation with the child. He says that he agrees that it was a tough day because of the plane crash. The child says that a lot of people died, and Bobby agrees. And we hear food sizzling. Camera cuts back. We can see Bobby is in the kitchen. He's got a frying pan on the stovetop. He's cooking food. Off screen, the child asks, "Why aren't you crying?" And Bobby says that he doesn't think he has enough tears for all of the people who died. Which sounds like a really sweet scene of Bobby's kid trying to console his father after a really tough day. Except then we get a wide shot of the apartment from over Bobby's shoulders, and we see that there is, next to the kitchen, there is a small round kitchen table with 4 place settings, but they're all empty. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So is Bobby talking to himself, or is he having an imaginary conversation with the child?
Yeah, when I first saw this, I thought that maybe the child had gone to bed and this was him later sitting around, because I still hadn't found out exactly what's going on with Bobby at this point.
Yeah.
And he just sits there at the table and he drinks. He's got a bottle of whiskey or whatever there. He drinks, and it's very sad. And then in a complete change of tone, we go back to Abby, who's taking a 911 call, and she says, "A spider is not an emergency, ma'am." So this lady has called 911 because there's a spider in her apartment, and she's going to call animal control.
Yeah, don't call animal control.
Don't call animal control.
If 911's not going to help me, animal control is going to help me.
At work today, I'm like standing there, doing stuff, and there's just this huntsman spider crawling along one of our displays. I very gently called for one of the other staff because I was like, if I take my eye off this spider, it is gone. Like, I don't care that it's not moving right now, it will leave as soon as... So yeah, we put it outside, but it was just funny. Then I get to this and I'm just like, I should have called 000. What was I thinking?
Well, that's the difference between Australians and Americans when it comes to spiders.
So, well, the thing is, as soon as the spider disappears, it can be anywhere.
Yeah. So I was like, nope, got to keep my eye on it.
Yeah, it's like the killers in a horror movie. You have to keep your eye on it because at least if you can see it, you know where it is. If you can't see it, it's gonna get you.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. And those huntsmen move real fast when they want to.
Oh, the best part was
buggers.
The staff member who took it out came back in shaking because it jumped at her. I'm so sorry. I offered to get it too, but she's got a tattoo of a spider on her arm, so she likes to pretend that she's tough sometimes.
Okay, now we've just turned everyone off from visiting Australia. Honestly, they're not that bad. They're friendly. They're not venomous.
Yeah, they're only huntsmen. The only reason that I moved it was because we had a lot of kids in the store today.
Okay, sure, that's the only reason.
In Australia, it's not the big spiders you have to worry about, it's the teeny tiny ones.
That's true.
Yeah. Anyway, so then Dale Mark's wife comes in, which is very sad, and we should stop making light of spiders.
Yeah.
This scene was so beautifully shot too.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
Abby gets Annie to sit down at her terminal and gives her an earpiece so that she can listen to her husband's call, and we don't hear the call again. We've already heard it. So we just get Annie's reaction to the call. And the way they've shot it is we either get a shot of Annie's face straight on, or we're watching her reflection in the computer monitor, which is showing the sound waves as the call progresses, and it almost looks like the heartbeat monitors in hospitals. And we know when she gets to the end of the call because suddenly the sound waves flatlines, like the heart rate monitor flatlines, and we know that she's reached the end of the call, and that's the point that her husband died.
Yeah, and we don't hear the call at all.
And she breaks down.
We don't hear anything. We just hear music playing, and as she just
really
gets
solemn
sad,
piano music. But I thought that was so beautifully done.
It really was.
And Abby comforts her. Yeah.
And she ends up sobbing on Abby's shoulder.
We go back to the precinct, and Athena is summoned to Captain E. Maynard's desk, who is her supervisor, obviously. She says it's not because of the airplane incident, because she saw the video and she was, doing the right thing there, which is possibly questionable, but okay. She didn't get in trouble for that. But
I think this is Captain Maynard's good cop routine.
Okay.
She's trying to soften Athena up a little bit for what's about to come.
Yeah.
Because otherwise there would be no reason to say, oh, you were completely justified in doing what you did. No, she fucking wasn't.
No.
But, I mean, Captain Maynard has bigger fish to fry right now.
Yeah. Because Athena arrested a teenager earlier that day.
She knows that no one called in a noise complaint and that she was out there for personal reasons. And so she puts Athena on restricted duties and tells her she can't go out anymore. It's
interesting the little interaction they have. Like, her boss asks what makes the best police officers, and Athena's like, integrity and all this sort of stuff. And her boss just says, the best police officers are the ones who don't make my telephone ring.
And right now I feel as if I operate the Athena Grant Crisis Hotline.
Yeah.
Because Everyone is calling about Athena.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Athena does not take the order to ride the desk very well. She begs Captain Maynard to let her iron this thing out with my daughter, and I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
What is Athena planning to do that she can't do from a desk?
Yeah, right? It's very concerning.
I think Captain Maynard had the right idea, restricting her to the precinct building.
Oh, my notes literally say totally deserved.
Yeah, well, she's obviously, like, you know, distraught or whatever. She's acting, you know, at an emotional level rather than actually doing her job properly. So
I think the exact words that she was using her badge to exact a personal vendetta.
Yep.
Which, yeah. But Athena begrudgingly accepts it and storms out of the office. I think if the doors allowed her to slam them, she probably would have slammed them behind her.
Yeah.
On her way out. And then in another complete change of tone, we cut to a hallway of an apartment building, and Hen is hammering on a door, calling for Bobby. Now this must be the next day, because Bobby, Hen and Buck are both in uniform again. I'm assuming that it's the next shift, and Bobby has not shown up, so they've come looking for him.
Yeah, Buck tries calling his phone and they hear it ringing inside. So Buck's about to kick the door down, as he does, but Hen has a key. And they let themselves inside and find Bobby passed out on his bed. And they pick him up and put him in the shower, and when he wakes up, he sees the two of them peering down at him.
I kind of love the shot of
would be...
It's so good.
Kind of terrifying to wake up and find yourself in the shower with your two co-workers staring at you. Strange.
Hen looking completely disapproving, and Buck does not know what to make of this situation.
Yeah, Buck's had a very
very challenging couple of days for poor Evan.
So Buck asks how long it had been, and Bobby says 546 days, or 45 and a half if they're being picky. 18 months.
And
of
then
being clean.
Buck must make some kind of face that he doesn't understand what it means, so Bobby has to clarify it. It's 18 months.
So Hen says we all have our breaking point, but then asks who he was cooking dinner for, because there are 4 plates set. And Bobby sort of shrugs it off and says he doesn't know he was drunk.
Yeah.
He tries to get the two of them to back off and says, you know, it's going to be fine. It was a one-time thing. I promise. I'm sorry for putting you through this. But Buck and Hen don't look at all convinced. And Hen asks what appears to be a completely out of left field question of, do you know why redwoods can grow so high? And the answer is apparently because they move and bend with the wind. Because if you stay rigid, you'll eventually break. And Bobby tries to play it off like a joke. He's like, are you calling me uptight? And he turns to Buck. She's calling me uptight. And Buck just looks so devastated.
He really does.
And just says in this little voice, maybe you could ask for help once in a while. And that's the moment that breaks Bobby. Because we learned in the last episode that the 118 is his family. And that's his son sitting there.
Yeah.
Looking at him like Bobby has just told him that Santa Claus isn't real. Father Christmas is not coming this year. He is so upset, and Bobby realizes that he's the one that's making Buck that upset. So he looks at Hen, he looks back at Buck, and just sobs out, "Help," and breaks down.
So sad, this bit. He says, I'm sorry, and just... Yeah,
at which point I start crying.
Yeah, I was too. It was so sad. And asking for help is the hardest thing. If you are someone who is independent enough to never want to ask for help. But, I mean, it's one thing also to say that you are going to ask for help, and then actually doing it is a whole other thing.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
Well done for Bobby for being able to actually say those words.
Yeah. And I think, Buck not making the joke back to him Because Buck,
I
like
realised
Buck,
how serious the
yeah,
situation
like Buck
was.
literally made a joke in an airplane that was about to sink, and in Bobby's apartment, he could not make a joke.
Yeah, very sad. But then we cut to Abby, who has just got home. She looks so tired. She looks exhausted. And Carla is there. She says that her mum's, down but not out. She's watching her favourite Goldie Hawn movie, which always puts her to sleep. So should be right. And then
Can we just talk about her favourite movie, though?
Yeah.
The movie is specified as Overboard, which I had to look that up. It's about a rich socialite who gets amnesia.
Oh.
And
So her favourite show is a show about... her favourite movie is a movie about someone who doesn't remember anything.
doesn't remember, and she gets taken advantage of, where someone takes this poor woman with amnesia and pretends that she is his wife and mother of his children.
Oh, God. And this is her favourite movie that she always goes to sleep to?
I'm assuming it's more to do with Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn than the actual storyline.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think that that's a very appropriate movie to be showing someone who has issues with memory.
Clearly, the person in charge of this, like the song choices, also does the movie choices around here because, oh my God.
Yeah. Maybe they're just like chuckling behind their, hands as they put these things in, going, no one will ever look this up. I don't need to worry.
They're just Googling movies with amnesia.
What would be the most inappropriate movie to have Patricia watch?
Oh my God.
Anyway, so
I just heard Overboard and thought it was about like drowning, and I was like, oh, that's, not great when we've just had a plane crash, but sure.
Well, she gets amnesia by knocking her head when she falls off her private yacht.
Great.
As you do, yeah.
As we all find ourselves doing at one time or another.
I don't know. My private yacht.
There's a whole, storyline is all about class and things like that, but yes. Anyway, so Carla asks if Abby wants her to stay a little bit longer. Abby says no and tries to push her home, tries to send her home. Carla gets a little bit pushy, the way that Carla can get a little bit pushy, but Abby's not having it tonight.
Yeah, Abby says she's a grown-up. She can look after herself. You need to go home, Carla. So Carla goes home, and Patricia says that Abby's always snappy when she's tired. Yeah. And
that was sweet. It was like, are you tired? Because you're always snappy when you're tired. You've always been snappy, even when you're a little baby.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those moments when you can see the real Patricia just shining through for a second.
Yeah, she even makes a comment like, you think I don't remember, but like sometimes she does remember.
But then literally 5 seconds later, she forgets who Carla is and just says that girl always leaves the thermostat on too high because Patricia is too hot. She's burning up.
Yeah.
So the moment was fleeting, but it was there.
And Abby just tells her to go to sleep and flops back on the couch. And
she falls asleep.
Closes her eyes and then wakes up a few hours later and gets up to check on her mum, and she's not there. She's not in her bed. And
bed's empty and the front door is open.
She calls out over and over again, but her mum is not there. And that's the end.
I don't mean to laugh, but I've got my notes in this section, which is bed's empty, no notes, car's gone.
Yes.
Which, if you're not a brain-rotted millennial like me, that's a Harry Potter quote.
Yes.
Excellent. It's just ingrained into our brains at this point.
Yep. So yes, Patricia is on the lam at 1:00 in the morning, and that is where we leave the episode.
Gosh, these cliffhangers.
Yeah, another cliffhanger.
I know we've slammed this episode pretty hard in parts, but I actually really enjoyed this episode in the way that it was extremely tense and then quite sad, but revealing in a character sense. Like, we got to hear
Honestly,
a little
I
bit about
enjoyed the
Bobby.
parts that weren't Athena.
Yeah, pretty much.
The
True,
parts with
yeah.
Athena were the parts that pissed me off the most.
Yeah.
Everything else was good.
Yeah, I thought the plane crash section was very...
It was tense. It was so
tense,
well
yes.
directed.
Terrifying, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like when Buck gets sucked out and Bobby's just like stuck and their heads start going under the water. Like, that would have been tough to film as well.
Yeah.
This was 911's first big disaster episode, and I think they did it really well and really set the tone for what we can expect with future disaster episodes.
Oh my God, there's going to be more?
Oh, honey.
That's a silly question. Of course there's going to be more. We've got 7 seasons of this.
This is like, so I just finished season 5.
It's not all cats stuck up trees.
I just finished season 5, and going back to this, I was like, it's just a plane crash.
A nice, easy one for them to have to deal with.
Like, why is Bobby so sad? Like, it's only a plane crash. Calm down, mate.
Oh dear. Every week you manage to like make me look forward to what's coming more and more.
I really like, it's impressive that you haven't watched ahead, because I did not have that self-control, and I'm now on season 6.
Well, for the podcast, I'm attempting to have realistic reactions to things by
I love it.
forcing
It's
myself to not watch ahead. So yeah, we'll get there. We'll get through season 1 eventually. No, I'm still really enjoying it, even though we did kind of dunk on this episode a bit.
It's just Athena. We're just dunking on Athena.
That's right.
Which is funny, because we do love Athena. This episode was just not good Athena.
Yeah.
Exactly. Unfortunately, I think 911 is one of these shows that you really cannot think critically about it at all. Because as soon as you start thinking critically about it, you start seeing everything that's being held together with like duct tape and chewing gum, and you cannot unsee it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what have we got to look forward to next week now, since we're talking about what's coming? The next episode is called Point of Origin.
Next
Right?
week's episode is called Point of Origin, and the summary is: the crew races to an emergency when disaster strikes at an Indian wedding. Abby enlists the help of Buck to try and find her mother, and for the first time meets Athena face to face. Meanwhile, Bobby has a difficult time confronting his past, and Hen struggles to make the right decision. So I think we might be getting some Hen-focused storylines next week.
Finally.
Awesome. Should we add any trigger warnings for that particular episode?
Trigger warnings for Point of Origin include building collapse due to negligence resulting in multiple casualties, building fire due to building negligence resulting in multiple casualties, and flashbacks to a character addicted to alcohol and opium.
Right. All the good stuff.
Such a bright and cheery show.
But it sounds slightly less catastrophic than plane crashes, but still kind of, devastating in different ways. Sure.
I think this next week is going to be another one of those more personal emergencies rather than grand scale professional emergencies.
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay. Well, if you enjoyed this episode, or you would like to tell us about what you thought of Athena's actions in this episode, you can contact us. You can send us an email at contact@thatwewishshow.com. All of our social media accounts are linked on our website, which is just thatwewishshow.com. And you can also find the show notes and transcripts for every episode there as well. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time for episode 5, Point of Origin. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
911 is a fictional show, but many of the situations portrayed happen in the real world too. If any of the topics we've discussed in this episode have affected you, please know you're not alone. You can call or text numbers in your country for help. Just Google crisis support in your location to find out the number. If you enjoy our podcast, you can help us out by leaving us a review on Spotify or your preferred listening app. and by sharing our social media posts. Find out more at thatweewooshow.com. I hope I don't sound too croaky.
No, you're fine.
Okay. Yeah, if I tried to do this last night, it would have been like, don't think it would have worked.
I don't know. We could have tagged it as sort of ASMR.
Yeah.
Fairy porn while we were at it.
Yeah, I was like, oh, maybe I can just go for the sultry kind of tone rather than actually saying that I'm totally sick.
That wee woo show after dark.
I don't even want to know what I've missed here.
Okay, I can't laugh too much or I'll start coughing.
Sorry, I just got distracted because apparently my brother's been in a plane this entire episode. And he just landed and I'm just like, thank God I forgot that he was flying tonight because...
Oh. Okay.
It's okay, he's landed, we're good.
Well, I'm
I
glad
just got a
you made it to
message
the
saying
ground.
that his plane had landed and I was like, what? Yep, cool. Anyway.
Life reflects art.
Oh my God, literally.
Alice
It's
is
fine,
just
he's
living
fine.
in a 911 episode.
No, don't say that, no.
The
Spiders.
spiders, planes, it's all happening